Alright, so today we have a 2011 Camry with the 2.5 liter. It's got an alternator issue. The alternator has stopped charging. It also has a very telltale sign that I'll show you here that you'll be able to audibly hear usually when these go out. Alright, so that whining noise you hear is one of the audible telltale signs that the alternator is going bad. One way to check this without going through an extensive amount of work is just to simply pull this connector here off of the alternator. And to do that, you'll just squeeze the pin on the side and pull the connector off. The whine instantly goes away. So that's one way to tell that this alternator is bad. And when you plug it back in, that whining sound should return. Alright, so the first step you're going to want to take is to disconnect your battery. You can do this by disconnecting the negative terminal. That's a 10mm. Alright, our next step is going to be to notate our direction of the serpentine belt, whether you write it down or find the diagram online. At the end of this video, I'll attach a diagram as well for your reference. Now, to take the slack off of this serpentine belt, you'll need a 14mm socket and probably a long breaker bar. You're going to go in a clockwise direction to loosen the tension on the belt. And then you can pull your belt free of the alternator pulley. Alright, the next thing is going to be, you're going to have a few connectors going to this alternator. One I showed you earlier was here, and you squeeze the tab on the side and pull this connector from the alternator. The other is just above that, and it has this guard on it. You just pull this little rubber guard out of the way, and you'll have a nut there to take off as well. That nut is going to be a 10mm. And then you can remove that cable. Then you'll have to unclip this wire harness here, or simply unbolt it from the alternator. For today, we're going to unbolt it from the alternator since we're changing it. Pull that wiring out of our way. For the next step, we're going to be removing 2 bolts. 1 bolt here, and 1 bolt on the underside of the alternator. To do that, you're going to be looking at using that 14mm again. I'm going to use it on a breaker bar at first, just to break these loose since they may be a little tight, and then I'll go in with the ratchet to take them all the way out. So once those bolts are removed, you're going to be looking at the top easy to access bolt is going to be very long. The bottom bolt is going to be a shorter bolt in comparison. Once those bolts are removed, you can just grab your alternator, give it a wiggle. And you should be able to remove the alternator from the top. Be careful not to damage any wires or anything. And you've got your old alternator out. All right, we're going to reverse that order when we put in our new alternator. So when we go in to install this alternator, things may be a little tight going in. Just be careful not to damage anything in the surrounding area. Gonna set our alternator in place and get our bolts. Remember, our top bolt is the longer bolt. And you'll have to just do a little wiggle while you feed that bolt into place. And get it started. Alright, it is started in a few threads. Now we're going to install the bottom bolt. While that top bolt is loose, you're going to want to do this so that you have the wiggle room to get this bottom bolt started on the threads. Wiggle. And once those bolts are started, you're going to torque them to spec. I'll put the torque specs down in the description of this video. Do not have to have power tools to do this job whatsoever. So reverse order on resecuring all these wires and the bracket as well that mounts the wire harness to the alternator. This is your bolt that mounts the bracket to the alternator. We're going to get that started. And then we're going to pull back our cover on this and install it to the stud on the alternator. And it has these two tabs on it that you have to line up. In the alternator, there's some space there for those tabs to go into. Make sure those are fully engaged before you tighten that nut down. Tighten down our bracket. And we're going to reconnect our plug and make sure you hear that click. Put our 14mm with our breaker bar back on that belt tensioner. Pull the slack. And reinstall our belt onto our alternator pulley. Always verify that your belt did not come off of any other pulleys before you start the engine. I'll go ahead and do that now off camera. Alright, now that I've verified that our belt routing is good and it is on all of the pulleys, I'm going to reconnect that battery and we'll be ready to do an ops check. Alright, and to verify that this battery's charging, we're going to hook up our multimeter here to the battery while the car is running. And we got 14.2 volts. That's perfect. Thank you for watching today's video. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Any tips or tricks that you have, I'd like to hear about them. Any advice you have for the channel going forward, I'd also like to hear about that as well. Everybody have a nice day. Thank you for watching.